Hey there, welcome back to the Faithful Chicks Podcast, Season 3. This is your space for real talk, faith, and just figuring out life. I'm Kelly Kirstein, and this season we're diving into something big, something that could literally change the way you see yourself, your faith, and your future. Are you ready? Let's go. So here's the deal. Have you ever felt like you're just not into faith? Like maybe you've heard all the talk about Jesus, but something makes it feel uncomfortable. Maybe your family brings him up all the time, or you go to youth group, but it's just not clicking for you. It's not something you really feel like you care about. I guess I want you to know I get it. And you're not alone. Here's a wild thought. What if I told you that Jesus pursued you first? Like before you ever even thought about him, he was already thinking about you. In 1 John 4:19, it lays it out straight. We love because Jesus first loved us. And that means even before you prayed a prayer, before you ever set foot in church, before you ever knew his name, he chose you. Let's look at John 15:16, where he says, I chose you. And also Ephesians 1:4 tells us that he chose us before the creation of the world. Hold up. How did he choose us before the world even existed? That's crazy. But that means that Jesus didn't just happen to love you. He wasn't waiting around to see if you were going to be good enough before he committed to you. Like he picked you first. Now, I know that sometimes, especially as you come into your teens and your early 20s, it's easy to kind of ignore Jesus. Life gets busy, you get consumed with other things. Have you heard people talk about him and like you're just not interested anymore, or you feel like, I just feel like church is boring? Maybe church feels like a rule book, or faith just seems fake. Like you'd rather be doing anything else but spending time with Jesus or worshiping or going to church. And sometimes faith can even feel awkward, especially if your friends aren't into faith, or maybe you don't want to be that girl who looks like the good girl and you used to believe, but somewhere along the way, you just kind of ghosted him and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Does any of that sound familiar to you? Well, I want you to think about it for a second. Like, what is really stopping you from letting Jesus in? I think it's important because it's so individual, and it might be a good idea to either pause this or after this is done, take a moment and just write down, like, what are your honest reasons for getting rid of Jesus in your life, or even just kind of not spending as much time with him? Does he make you uncomfortable? Does it have to do with your friends and they don't get it? Because faith can be just another thing that people do to look good. And we don't want it to be that. I want this journey to be real and to help you find deep connection with him so that it makes life better and you start to feel more yourself because you're connected to Jesus. Okay, let me shift gears a little bit here and let's talk about the story of the lost sheep. It's a parable in Luke 15 and it's verses 1-7 if you want to look up. But Jesus was hanging out with a bunch of tax collectors and so-called sinners at the time. People really didn't like tax collectors because they were thought to be dishonest and to take more than they deserved and put it in their pockets. There were also religious leaders around, and they were not happy about him spending time with these sinners. And they're like, why is he hanging out with them? Jesus, just being who he is, tells a story to illustrate what he's trying to do and to send a message to the religious leaders. He said, basically, imagine that there's a shepherd who has 100 sheep and one of them wanders off. And instead of saying, oh, well, he actually leaves the 99 and goes after the one lost sheep. When he finds it, he doesn't scold it. He doesn't yell at it. He's not mad. He actually picks it up, puts it on his shoulders, carries it home, and he's celebrating because he found this lost sheep and brought it home. And here's where Jesus, I love, he drops these truth bombs and says, in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous people who don't think they need to. Whoa. Can you imagine how mad that probably made the religious leaders at the time? Because they didn't know that Jesus was the Messiah. They didn't recognize him as the Son of God. They probably just thought he was some arrogant guy. So, what does Jesus mean when he says that? It means that he's not looking for perfect people. And thank God for that, right? He's looking for people who feel lost, who feel ignored, maybe don't feel like they belong. I don't know if any of these have ever applied to you, but if they have, he's coming for you, not to shame you, not to punish you, but he wants to love you back to home and love you back to yourself. Sometimes we can get a little lost in life. But here's something else I want you to think about. What if Jesus tried to help that lost sheep and it just ignored him and said, no thanks, or I'm good, I got this other stuff to do, and just stayed out there feeling lost, messed up, and broken, or just completely rejected him, pouting and sitting in the mess it had made? Help came, but the sheep rejected it. I think if we're honest, we've all done that when we're struggling. Like we sit there in self pity, or we fall back into old coping mechanisms, or just sit down in our junk. If you're ready to move forward, it's time to reach out, grab onto Jesus, and let him help you. He's offering. He will help you get up, start moving forward one step at a time in a healthy direction. If you stumble, he will show you different ways to handle things. He'll give you a hug in the spirit, like in the heart. And I think if we're honest, we know we can't fix ourselves. That's why we need him, because we live in a really messed up, broken world that can break our hearts. It damages us. Some of it we do to ourselves, some of it other people do to us, some of it's just the nature of living here on earth. But this damage can lead to self-sabotaging choices. It can be struggling to see your worth. This damage can cause pain in our lives, and it can actually cause us to hurt the people that we love the most. Jesus is the only one who can break you free, help restore you to wholeness. When we don't allow him to help us and to deal with our stuff, just so you know, it will keep growing. It will keep getting worse, kind of like an infected wound. And the longer we live, the more bound up, messed up, and hurting we're going to become. So I'm just going to give you a little help. Get a head start and do it before I did, and just begin to work on things and let Jesus in. Now, when you allow his light to come into your heart, into your mind, things really do start to change. You realize that you have the power to do amazing things in this world, that God has designed you with a mind and gifts that can be a force for good. Frankly, the love of Christ is the thing that heals the broken places inside. And you may think that there's places that can never be healed, that you just have to live with. It's not the truth. The truth is that Jesus wants to be a part of your life. He can offer you a way out of those things that consume you and make you miserable. He can help you see your worth, and that it's not based on the things that we tend to put it in, like looks, like popularity, our weight, whatever we own. I don't know. We're all different, but most of us try to grab onto the things in our lives to show, hey, look at this. This makes me awesome. Look at this. I can do this. And we try to prove our worth that way. And as you get to know him, it's something different inside of you, and your identity in that God created you for a purpose and a plan that allows you to become solid in who you are and allows you to become whole, healthy, happy. So I would ask you to consider, what would it be like to live a life where you felt loved and whole? If that seems like something that would be helpful to you, keep listening each week. Maybe consider picking up my latest study, Just a Girl Who Loves Jesus. It's okay if you don't love him yet. What I'm trying to do is help you see first that he loves you. And when you receive the love from him that's so pure, so whole, that brings light into the darkness, you can't help but love him back. It is life changing. I think we all grab onto whether it's makeup products, diets, different things that we're searching for. Maybe we're scrolling on TikTok for that thing that's just going to be so life changing. And I'm telling you, this is it. And if nothing else, if you're not ready to go all in, I get it. It took me a long time. But what if you just took one step forward to learn a little bit more about faith so that you can start to make informed decisions about Jesus, so that you can start to understand him a little bit better and you can start to experience these awesome supernatural things where it's like you just know he's there. You can feel his presence. You'll have these amazing moments where a song will show up at the right time or something will happen and you know it's him and you're like, whoa. And it just makes the world seem so much bigger. It makes eternity seem so much bigger and you get to be a part of it. So I want to leave you with this. Are you ready for a little bit more of Jesus? There's no pressure, there's no guilt. Like, this is just an honest question. If you're ready, I want to encourage you. All of this should lead you to him. Like, talk to him. Do it in the way that fits with you. Be honest. And if you're not sure, that's okay. But please don't ghost him forever. I'd ask you to consider giving him a chance. So, all right, friend, this is it for today. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone else who needs to hear it. Remember that Jesus loved you first, that you are seen, you are chosen, you are loved. And I'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, stay real, stay loved, and go after connection with Jesus because it's amazing. See ya.